Chapter 178, EP 33, Reading Again, 9. I held on to unbroken faith. My muscles expanded from the powerful stories. It was like a dragon's blood was flowing through my heart. Move while the force is building up. We have to make a gap. Yu Junghyuk came forward first. I will buy as much time as possible. The movements of the tentacles were more active than before and the ground was almost in ruins. We tried to move this guy as far away from the party members as possible. Hey up! Yu Junghyuk raised his magic power and moved forward. Meanwhile, I moved behind the Devourer of Dreams. It was to find a place where I could hurt the main body as much as possible without hitting the tentacles. The body was at least 1 kilometer in diameter, so it was a hard job to find the weak spot. In the meantime, Chiak Jungyang built up his strength. The 1 sword and 2 swords were powerful enough, but they couldn't be compared to the huge force building in my right arm. It was doubtful if this was really the power of a historical grade constellation. Damn, this is the limit for this body. This much is possible with the support of the probability. Chiak Jungyang grumbled as the accumulation of power almost finished. Don't be too elated. I don't know if I can cut all the tentacles and hurt the body with this much strength. I guess. The opponent is an outer god after all. Do you have a plan? I asked with a bit of expectation. He spoke so confidently that I thought Chiak Jungyang had a countermeasure. Chiak Jungyang thought for a moment before replying, I will hit him with the 3-sword style and hope he is tired enough to go back. Didn't you say you would protect me? I will protect you. I promised in my name. The strongest person on the Korean peninsula is relying on luck in this situation? I flinched at the magic power that exploded from unbroken faith. Was he angry? However, Chiak Jungyang calmed down. I know the demon of the horizon. The demon of the horizon. I heard this name and glanced at Yu Junghyuk, who was still fighting. He didn't seem able to listen in on our conversation. Chiak Jungyang continued speaking. I will ask him to send you to another world. There is no time limit on the 9th scenario. If you flee there, you will be able to live for a while. Of course, you will have to take care of things after that. What type of demon has that power? Rather than a demon, he is closer to a god. You don't need to know the details. You would be better off praying not to meet him. I didn't know the relationship between Chiak Jungyang and the demon of the horizon. I pretended differently, but I knew that name. It was because the demon of the horizon was the existence who sent Shin Yusung of the 41st regression here and who supplied the disasters to the Dakibis. I wasn't sure how Chiak Jungyang knew the demon of the horizon, but perhaps he was the one who helped when Chiak Jungyang was exiled from the scenario. Can other people escape this way? Such a large amount of probability isn't allowed. The Dakibis also won't allow it. But once this happens, all the people left here will die. If I ran away, the people here would be swallowed up by the Devourer of Dreams and have their story swallowed. Chiak Jungyang clicked his tongue. That isn't any of my business. Don't worry about the others. Take care of your own life. Life is about being alone anyway. As expected of Chiak Jungyang. His life philosophy was very pessimistic due to his life of betrayal. A gap. Run. I used electrification and flew forward with all my speed at Chiak Jungyang's sudden shout. I passed through 2 or 3 tentacles, but there were still 5 or 6 blocking the way. It was dangerous to get closer. There was the place where I should stop. Goryeo first sword. I have an idea. An idea? What is it? Concentrate instead of speaking nonsense. To be honest, it is impossible to kill him with the 3-sword style. You should already know it. The ground at the tentacles touched subsided. It would be instant death if I was touched, no matter Chiak Jungyang's defense. However, Chiak Jungyang's pressure would kill me before the tentacles. I shouted as Chiak Jungyang's power pressed down on me. I'm not saying this to provoke you. Just think about it realistically. Chiak Jungyang's pressure decreased at my words. So? Do you have a way to beat that guy? I do. If you help, perhaps I can kill the outer god. Chiak Jungyang laughed in a dumbfounded manner. Kill the outer god? Do you know what you're saying right now? This is an outer god. It would be hard even for those damn Olympus and Vedas guys. There is no way I would say this if it was another god. However, the devourer of dreams, it might be possible. I am listening. What is the method? Hurt his body and throw me into it. Chiak Jungyang was confused and at a loss for words. The giant tentacles were coming once again. If you do that, you will die. You won't survive being eaten by him. Didn't you hear the words of that good-looking guy before? Once you are eaten by him, I will survive. I was convinced as I listened to him. I was certain that I could survive being eaten by this outer god. No constellation, let alone a mortal, could feel this conviction. Chiak Jungyang trembled as if he was incensed and opened his mouth. Is there something you can do? I can't say it is 100%. I might be able to get help from the demon of the horizon through Chiak Jungyang. Yet there would be nothing left for me if I survived alone. Escape was a denial of everything I had built up so far. Thus, I chose this approach. Kohuk. The silent Chiak Jungyang suddenly gave a huge laugh. It was a laugh that seemed to fill the plains. I lived long enough to see the day. The day when a man like you believes he can fight against that god. Finally, the upper body of the devourer of dreams started to be summoned. The first eye that watched the world was revealed. As soon as the gaze of the devourer of dreams touched on the ground, the sensation filled me with more trepidation than I had ever felt. If I fought this thing, I would die. No matter what I did, I couldn't win against it. Chiak Jungyang sighed. Stupid constellation. Yes. I like you. So don't die. I nodded and ran. The mountain of tentacles soared into the sky. I used electrification and there was a blue-white trail everywhere I passed. Come, outer god. Chiak Jungyang gripped the sword in my hand. All of Chiak Jungyang's stories were gathered and the three-sword style was expressed. I, Chiak Jungyang, will cut you. The ether blade increased. The blade that was 10 meters long increased to 20 meters. The blade that was 20 meters long increased to 30 meters. The power that transcended my magic power and my story was falling down here. Three-sword style, three-sword ocean chop. I knew it the moment I drew the sword. This. In my head, I saw Chiak Jungyang standing in front of the sea. Chiak Jungyang watched the sea from dawn to dusk. All the years of watching the sea, looking at the distant horizon until he saw the target. It was one line that distorted the balance of time and space. The waves split apart and the waters had the illusion of splitting. This was a sword made to cut the sea. The constellation, maritime war god, admires the power of Goryo's first sword. The constellation, abyssal black flame dragon, admires the power of the pure human constellation. The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, shows great interest in Goryo's first sword. The air exploded and all sound was swallowed. I swung my sword despite feeling like my body was going through a blender. One sword, two swords, three swords. After wielding three swords, the fuse of my consciousness was completely broken. Really, just wait a moment. Up. Then Chiak Jungyang called out to me. Wake up. Stupid constellation. I barely managed to open my eyes and saw a few strands of tentacles floating in the air. However, the tentacles were no longer what I remembered. 7 of the 12 tentacles had been cut apart and fell to the ground. Cheok Jungyang was a historical-grade constellation. He cut half of the tentacles with his own strength. Nevertheless, Cheok Jungyang spoke like he was angry. I couldn't cause a deep wound because of lacking strength. I couldn't cut him with the sword that cuts the sea. No, this is enough. It is enough for success. Cheok Jungyang was successful. Beyond the tentacles, there was a huge horizontal scar on the main body. The three-sword style had cut off the tentacles and wounded the main body. It was a small wound compared to the size of the guy, but it was wide enough for me to enter. A pained cry burst out from the devourer of dreams. I had to run over there. I had to do it right now. Before his wound healed, I must enter the wound. This was the way to end this scenario. The nebula Vedas is ridiculing your adversity. Damn it, I wanted to deal a blow to those damn nebulae. By the way, the nebula Papyrus is toasting your scenario. My legs didn't move. No matter how much strength I used, my legs wouldn't budge. No, I couldn't even feel my strength. What? The constellation, Queen of the Darkest Spring, is looking at you with sad eyes. I looked down and realized the state I was in. I couldn't see anything below my knees. My lower legs had disappeared like it had been cut by something. Blood constantly flowed from the cut sections. It was probably the world of the tentacles while I was using the three-sword style. Damn it. I was almost there, yet a situation like this occurred. In the meantime, the duration of electrification ended. Little by little, the injury on the god was healing. It wasn't a distance I couldn't cross in the state where I lost my lower legs. Kim Dokja. I turned my head and saw the bloody Yu Junghyuk. Yu Junghyuk staggered to me, grabbed me by the collar and lifted me onto his shoulders. He looked at the wound on the god and asked, I have to throw you over there. Can you do it? Yu Junghyuk didn't answer. He just showed it with his actions. Yu Junghyuk jumped onto what seemed like stairs in the air. He stepped on the tentacles while using air steps. I could hear a slight creaking sound from Yu Junghyuk's body. His body was already at the limit. Even so, Yu Junghyuk didn't give up. He climbed and climbed again. Soon afterwards, the distant wind soaked my cheeks. Yu Junghyuk stopped his magic power and paused. I looked up and the wound on the god was right in front of me. Despite the lack of time, Yu Junghyuk hesitated. He hesitated while holding tightly to my collar. We don't have to hold another funeral, right? I smiled because of Yu Junghyuk's question. Even if I die, I will rise again. That isn't what I mean. Yu Junghyuk's expression was serious. A high wind blew between me and Yu Junghyuk. I looked at him for a moment before asking, do you remember the second scenario? The subway of Oksu Station. It was where Yu Junghyuk first appeared after smashing everything. He was a cold-blooded regressor who would use whatever means necessary for the results. Yu Junghyuk's calm eyes shook at my words. Who would have known at the time? Me and this guy, we would actually end up as companions. I hadn't wanted to admit it, but now I had to. The things that hadn't seemed possible became reality. I was actually going through the scenarios with him. That's why I could now say it. Just like I did when I first met him on Han River Bridge. This was the way that suited us best. Release your hand and get lost, you damn son of a bitch. Chapter 179, EP 34, Unable to be Eaten, I. Yu Junghyuk's expression slowly changed as he held me by the neck. Previously, I would already be falling through the air. Now everything was the opposite. I flew through the air instead of falling. Yu Junghyuk had thrown me as hard as he could. Yu Junghyuk was watching me. His expression showed he was certain that I wouldn't die. I didn't hear his voice, but I could tell what he was saying. Feed him one blow, Kim Dokja. The moment I was about to answer, the tentacles blocked my gaze. The attack of the tentacles missed me by a hair's breadth and I landed on the Devourer of Dreams' body. I used the strength remaining in my arms to grab the body and move towards the wound. This guy was a life-threatening presence just through touch. If I was still an incarnation, I might have already passed out or died. If he finished his descent, it was scary to think about what might happen. I threw my body into the wound. I'm sorry. I can't go with you. Power drained from my body and I felt Chiak Jungyang's strength scattering. I didn't panic because I had already expected it. Soon afterwards, the wound connected to the outside completely closed. I floated in the air, like a person floating in the universe. The inside of the Devourer of Dreams was as dark as the sky. It was a space with no blood or flesh. It was natural since the outer god wasn't a living thing. Dung, dung, dung. I heard the sound of drums coming from somewhere. Then there was a whispering. Someone gazed at me. It wasn't hard to breathe despite there being no air. Perhaps the moment I entered this space, my very existence was transformed. Then after a while, all sounds disappeared. The screams of the incarnations and the messages of the constellations were gone. Instead, there were unknown characters and images. This was the stomach of the Devourer of Dreams. It was a place where all the stories he had eaten were gathered. #% and $#. There were some stories I could recognize. Perhaps they were from Founder's mother. It is my fault. The foolish history was too long. I have to protect this land from the nebulae. However, now there is no one in Hongik. Where have all the gods of creation gone? Huaneng. I want to see Huaneng. Then a story with a small light came up to me and shouted. What are you doing? Why are you here? Run away. The light flickered. Thank you, but there was nowhere for me to run away to. The outer gods were existences rooted in the distant outer universe. Half of his body was connected to the second floor of Dark Castle while the inside of his body was directly connected to the outer universe. Thus, his stomach was like outer space to me. It was a world of sheer emptiness, only filled with the desire to eat. The Devourer of Dreams wanted me. The scattered letters gathered together and started to form a shape. In this empty space, eyes and a mouth were created. In fact, I wasn't sure if they were eyes or a mouth, but I had to think of it in these terms since I was a human. He seemed to be saying something but his voice wasn't heard properly. After a while, the letters shivered and started to transform into words that I could understand. The smell of an interesting story. The moment that two eyes looked at me, I gulped without knowing it. This was the presence of a god who caused fear in even the narrative-grade constellations. The presence of an inferior scenario. How, do you hear me? The exclusive skill, Fourth Wall, is extremely active. The fourth wall became more active than it had ever been so far. I felt like a wall was growing on my skin. It meant this enemy was dangerous. He wasn't even a great old ones. I couldn't imagine what the gods such as the Fear of Sarnath, Horror from the Hills or Master of Relaya would be like. I took a deep breath and slowly opened my mouth. Devourer of Dreams. You are a great god of another world. Oh. The letters of Devourer of Dreams twitched like he was surprised by my words. In this guy's eyes, I wasn't even a bug. I was a strange toy he could erase at any time. Strong sparks occurred around me and the letters started to revolve. There was something that wanted to penetrate inside me. However, as soon as it reached my side, it was bounced off. The letters of Devourer of Dreams spoke in a subdued manner. What, are you? Are you under a special protection? This guy had attempted to mentally invade me. Then he had been bounced off by the fourth wall. I would have been destroyed if I didn't have this skill. I controlled my heart and looked at the Devourer of Dreams. As I said before, the Yu Junghyuk of the 136th regression was eaten by him. However, Yu Junghyuk didn't die. In other words, my current basis was his 136th attempt. I slowly opened my mouth so that I wouldn't be caught by his boundaries. I came to tell you a story. Story. I like stories. The outer god reacted immediately. The monstrous greed caused him to become fuzzy. Among all the stories you have eaten, there are those belonging to Lee Suk-young. Please send her back. The face looked puzzled. This isn't a story. I will tell you a story in exchange. What story will you tell me? I pointed to myself without speaking. It was obvious what I meant. I was making a bet with my existence at stake. The big eyelids slowly blinked. Small constellation. Yes. Do you intend to make a deal with me? The moment I was going to open my mouth, shapes appeared in the air. It was an image made up of the stories that Devourer of Dreams had devoured. The bear doesn't talk to the fish. The image shown was a giant bear, reminiscent of Founder's mother. The bear looked around with foolish eyes and caught the fish flowing through the empty universe. The Devourer of Dreams looked at the bear and said, "Human, I don't negotiate with bugs." I hadn't been properly recognized yet. A half-constellation couldn't deal with a cosmic deity. It was a natural story. However, I shook my head. If bugs talk like humans, think like humans and act like humans, they can't be called bugs anymore. I glared at the two huge, black eyes. You aren't qualified to make a deal with me. I can take away everything you have at any time. Then why are you talking to a bug instead of taking it away? The bear eating the fish looked at me. The bear raised its paws in a threatening manner, as if it was going to hit me right away. I stared at the bear and said, "The bear knows how to eat fish, but it doesn't know how to eat them deliciously." The bear's paw hesitated. The feet are damaged by the scales, the claws are dirty after taking out the guts of the fish, and it just fills its anger. Just as I'm not a bug, you're not a bear. Isn't that right? The letters in the space jumbled together and the Eater of Dreams' face became bizarre. Usually, I would be terrified, but I had read the original novel. I started grinning. This situation was too pleasant for me to bear. All the stories will be damaged if you forcibly take them. If you trample on me right now, you won't get a perfect story. I will tell you a story that you can eat in its best condition. You'll always be able to eat it. Dung, dung, dung. Once again, I heard a drumming sound. It was like a giant beast's pulse. The tempo of the sound became increasingly faster. Dung. 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 I had read the original work and knew the identity of this drumming sound. I want to eat you. This sound was the Eater of Dreams' hunger. I gulped and raised both hands. If you keep your promise, I will give you a lot. The letters turned into smoke and started to form a shape. After a while, it took on the appearance of my mother. Is this what you want? I nodded. This story has some interesting corners. I saved it because it smelled more delicious than the shell of the constellation I ate along with it. I want to eat you very badly, but I can't afford to give you this story. Are you a beast who can't control your hunger? Is there anyone who would be offended by the insults of bugs? Fucking bastard. I didn't know what rank he was among gourmets, but he was low among the outer gods. The letters formed a brutal smile. The conversation with you ends here. I will eat all of you. The image of the bear who caught the fish flew towards me bearing sharp teeth like a piranha. There was no place to run away. My legs couldn't move, and in any case, I was in his stomach. Shit, fine. If you want to eat, then eat as much as you like. Instead, I spread open my arms and greeted him. Be sure to eat all of it. Hundreds of fish started to eat at my body. They bit at my arms, my legs, my back and my face. I felt a terrible pain but no blood came out. Instead, it was letters. The stories and histories I had built up started to leak out after I was bitten by his teeth. Oh! This is? The god shrieked with joy at the heavenly delicacies. My consciousness was blurred and there was a pounding in my head. Nevertheless, I held on. I had to hold on until he ate the part one was thinking about. Oh. The next moment, something poured out of me like a waterfall. He had touched something. The exclusive skill, fourth wall, has reacted to the vibrations hitting the wall. The moment I was waiting for had finally come. The letters poured into his stomach, creating a torrent. It was an enormous amount of stories. You, what the hell are you? The baffled devourer of dreams cried out to me, but I didn't have the strength to answer. I was hard to keep my sanity with all the stories pouring out. I looked at the sentences passing in front of my eyes. Yu Junghyuk looked at the mouth of devourer of dreams and spoke. It was the contents of ways of survival. Yes, if you want to eat me, eat as much as you can. It was the 136th regression Yu Junghyuk. Yu Junghyuk was eaten by the devourer of dreams and had been in the same situation as me. This, what the hell is this? Yu Junghyuk of Ways of Survival replied on my behalf. You will know. You will experience what it is like to have lived 136 times. You will know all the loneliness, sorrow, anger and hatred towards this damn world that I felt during this awful time. Que quoi? You think of humans as worse than bugs. If so, feel it from now on. Wait a minute. The pain that bugs suffer. Feel the history of the bug that you can't handle. If you have the confidence to eat me, then eat and eat as much as you can. The stories pouring all filled the stomach of the devourer of dreams with continuous explosions. The devourer of dreams ate ways of survival and struggled with the pain. Somewhere in his stomach, cracks started to appear. Ways of Survival spoke as if laughing at the confused devourer of dreams. It was the moment when the devourer of dreams, who was born in space and lived for 8,000 years, realized it. Quo. It was the scene where Yu Junghyuk first killed a god. I had read it over and over again, almost memorizing it. I paraphrased the following sentence on behalf of Ways of Survival. In this world, there is a story that should never be eaten.